Hello, I'm Annie with ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us for week number 42 of Live with Annie. Being here with you is certainly a highlight of our week, and we really appreciate that you make the time to join us. You may notice that my voice sounds a little bit different today. I came down with a cold last week, and I've been pumping down the liquids, so hopefully we're going to make it through today's presentation. I am very, very happy that we have a guest today who's going to do the majority of the talking. So I'll try hard not to cough on everybody and keep things going. Last week we had a really awesome visit with Bruce and Diane Magidson from Sew Boutique. I thought it was so very fascinating to see the process of making their beautiful boutique fabrics and hearing the story of Sew Boutique. Boutique fabrics make gorgeous ByAnnie projects that have a timeless classic appeal, and I so appreciated all the tips that Bruce and Diane shared for using their fabulous fabrics. Okay, I'm losing it here. If you missed our visit with Sew Boutique or want to watch it again, remember that all of the episodes of Live with Annie are available online. You can watch them on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, or by going to ByAnnie.com live. I think that's the easiest way because you can find the current episode there right at the top, and then below that a drop-down listing of all the prior episodes. And while we're live, there's also a chat function. So we'll put up the link to make it easy for you to find. To thank everyone for joining us last week, we had 2 awesome giveaways. The first was a fabulous kit to make a Bowl Me Over 2.0 bag. The kit included everything except thread to make the bag, and the very lucky winner was Kimberly Smith. Kimberly, we hope that you enjoy this project, and we cannot wait to see your finished bag. The other prize was a lovely shawl that Diane made using Sew Boutique's soft jersey knit fabric. The lucky winner of the shawl was Karma Metzger. We've shared your details with Diane to ship the shawl to you, Karma, and we're anxious to hear what you think. We'd also love to see a picture of you wearing that shawl. It looked so very comfy. I'm going to have a drink before I proceed. I need a hot toddy back here, I think, today. Today we are going to visit with Teresa Coates, who is the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics. She's going to share a lot of helpful tips for working with plush fabrics like Cuddle. But before we get started with that, I don't know if I'm going to make this today. Before we get started with that, I want to remind you about our SewPINK campaign, which we hold every October during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Our goals are to raise awareness, encourage people to get screenings, come together as a community, and donate to breast cancer research. To help spread awareness and offer some comfort to those affected by breast cancer, we introduced our Bosom Buddy pattern in the first year of our SewPINK initiative. We know that many of you have made these awesome cushions and shared them with people recovering from surgeries, and we thank you all. If you haven't made one, remember that Bosom Buddy is a free pattern that you can find at our website, ByAnnie.com. And we also filmed a step-by-step video to go along with it. We're going to put up a link so you can find it easily. We are going to be talking about some quick and easy ways to use plush fabrics for this pattern. Here's a little sneak peek when Teresa joins us, so I wanted to give you a little more background about the pattern. First, we send special thanks to Jennifer and Carolyn Gibbons for inspiration for this pattern. Jennifer is one of many women who elect to have surgery when they learn that they are carrying the BRCA gene and realize it's not a question of if, but when they might be faced with breast cancer. Jennifer's family history makes it a very real possibility for her. Jennifer, Carolyn, and the Carolina Pine Quilters started to make seatbelt cushions to donate to women who were beginning their breast reconstruction journeys. They reached out to us at ByAnnie for help, asking to use Soft and Stable for their donations. Inspired by their work and with their permission, our ByAnnie team sat down to develop an official pattern for similar cushions, and the Bosom Buddy pattern was born. We're happy to say that Jennifer is now 2 years out from her last surgery and doing great. Jennifer says, "It was a long journey, but reducing my risk of breast cancer from 50 to 70% to less than 5% was worth every bit of the good, bad, and the ugly." Jennifer has made it her mission to mentor women who are exploring natural breast surgery and to provide guidance and support through the process, and she shared this thought with us. "Since it's October, I want to make note that while it is wonderful that breast cancer is brought to awareness with the color pink, it is also important to remember that the mental and physical health aspect of a patient going through breast cancer is far from pretty and pink. It's more like a haunted house. So having items such as the Bosom Buddy are extremely helpful in healing during the painful times. Every time I buckled my seatbelt, it gave me a simple joy to know I was going to have a comfortable ride, and the bright, happy fabric helped too. It's the thoughtful items and small gestures that help us get through every day of a very long journey." We really thank Jennifer for sharing those thoughts with us and send our best to anyone who is facing breast cancer. If you or someone you know have had surgery, we hope that a Bosom Buddy will bring you comfort as well. Remember, too, that Bosom Buddy is also helpful for someone who has a port or other surgeries that affect the chest or stomach, and the cushion may be worn on the lap belt as well. And even if you haven't had surgery, you might love a Bosom Buddy. We recently received this email from Karen, who said, "I am a school bus driver. I have 2 friends, co-workers, who have been battling breast cancer for quite a while now. One of them continues to drive as she engages in a continuing battle with that heinous disease. Unfortunately, one of my 2 friends passed in July. I made one of these Bosom Buddies for each of them. They absolutely loved them. However, after each started wearing it on the seatbelt in their school bus and other drivers started seeing it, I began receiving requests for one by other friends. The seatbelts in our buses are anchored in the wrong place on all of the buses, so that the seatbelt lands across our throat. We are constantly having to move the strap off of our necks. As a short person, I can definitely relate to that. I have the very same problem in every vehicle that I drive." Karen says that she's been making and gifting Bosom Buddies to anyone who's asked for one. And Karen, we are so sorry to hear of the loss of your friend, but thank you for helping our bus drivers have a more comfortable and safe drive. And thank you for sharing your story. I need a drink. We also received another thoughtful message from Barbara Faulkner, who said, "Our craft group of quilters decided to make Bosom Buddies for breast cancer awareness. We had a retreat with friends and made these. Thanks for the free pattern. The girls were impressed and said they wanted some for themselves." So if you're looking for a project to do with your quilting group or a group of sewing friends, Bosom Buddies are great, and October is the perfect time for that. All right, as I said earlier, today we are going to talk about plush fabrics with the queen of all things soft and cuddly, Teresa Coates, who is the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics. Teresa and her trusty sidekick, Hawk, present weekly Facebook Lives for Shannon Fabrics. Their Sew Together Tuesday episodes are full of great tips and tricks for using plush fabrics, so be sure to check them out. Teresa and Hawk spent 12 weeks on the road this summer, visiting stores around the country to share Shannon's mission of making the world a softer place. On their way home, Teresa and Hawk stopped by to visit and gave us the chance to give to brainstorm some ideas for using their soft, yummy fabrics in our patterns. I have to confess that my experience with this type of soft, stretchy fabric had not always been totally positive in the past. So I was a bit hesitant to use it for projects beyond the backs of quilts or throws, or items which we could quilt it to, for which we could quilt it to soft and stable to help stabilize it. But Teresa assured me that there were some special techniques that would make sewing with these plush fabrics easy. My voice is really catching on me today. I'm so sorry. And the tips she shared really made a huge difference. So I have invited Teresa to join us today to share some of these tips with all of you too. Please help me give a big welcome to Teresa and Hawk of Shannon Fabrics. Hi, guys.
Hello. Hi. How are you today?
I've been better, but I'm hanging in there.
So sorry.
I'm really happy to turn this over to you. And I'm sure everyone listening is going to be happy to hear your good voice too.
My voice is fine today, so I'm happy to take the load off your shoulders a little bit. So we're here with Hawk's here. He's going to run around and go grab the camera, and I'm going to talk all about using Cuddle with ByAnnie patterns and the product. So thank you again for inviting us. I really appreciate it. It was awesome to stop and see you in St. George. I'm really glad we got the chance to sit here and kind of brainstorm.
I'm glad we did too.
It was great. So we both did the bosom buddy. You and I both did. And so I kind of want to talk about that first, just in using that pattern for it, because I feel like the Cuddle is actually like the perfect fabric for that project, because we're looking for something to be soft against our neck. The Cuddle is kind of ideal for it. So I'm happy to share that with you. So I have my version. You have yours, right?
I do.
So I did one. Mine is in Luxe Cuddle and then a regular Cuddle. You did some special ones, and I kind of want to talk about the difference of the fabrics and how they work. So which fabrics did you use? Can we see yours?
So we did one with a special Hope Cuddle that Shannon put out that actually has pink ribbons on it. So designed specifically for breast cancer awareness. I guess they go both ways, so there's not an up and down. And so on this one, we used Cuddle completely for the entire thing. Actually, we did on all three of these we made, even for the bindings, and I can't wait for you to tell more about that. On this one, we did the fun sparkle glitter one in pink, and Hawk had told me about this fabric when you guys came through town and you guys found a little piece to share with me, and I absolutely couldn't believe that the glitter in here is such an integral part of it that it doesn't scratch you, it doesn't come off on your table, but it gives just a real glitzy appearance, which is really fun. And then we thought, because breast cancer doesn't just affect women, we also wanted to do one that would be suitable for the guys. So we made this one using your playbook Cuddle, which has balls and bats and helmets and things like that on it. So it would be a really nice one for the men in your life. So again, based on your recommendations, we used Cuddle for everything: the belt wrap, the bindings, and more. That did require a few changes to the pattern and a few tips and tricks that you shared with me. So I'm going to let you take over again and share all of those tips with all of us.
Sounds good. So I did mine actually with a couple of different kinds of Cuddle. So I used a print Cuddle. Go ahead. I used the print Cuddle for the wrap, the belt wrap, and for the binding. And then I used what we called a Luxe Cuddle for the body of it, which is a super soft, yummy Cuddle. So get in here and see if we can show this a little bit closer. I love the Luxe Cuddle on things, but I wanted to make sure that we used the Cuddle for the binding because it was super easy. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But I wanted to show you could use both. So you could use the flatter Cuddle, which is a print or a solid Cuddle, and then the Luxe Cuddles for the body of it too. I made another one that I did with a cotton for the belt wrap. I thought that might be easier for some people to be able to do that. It works super well with the regular Cuddle and wasn't difficult, but you can do it with the cotton as well and blend that. But you definitely want to do the outside edges with the Cuddle so it'll rub against your neck and be nice and soft. Okay, so there's a few things I want to talk to you about using the Cuddle. So Cuddle is a 100% polyester knit fabric. It's plush, and it can be a little bit intimidating. And if you don't know what you're doing when you start working with it, it can be a little bit difficult. So we do have some tips and tricks for you, some ways that you can do it a little bit easier and make it so it's not so difficult and get to use it in all these fun projects. So the first thing I wanted to show you is how we cut it. So this is how I recommend that you cut it. You can absolutely cut it with a rotary cutter. But when you're using the fluffier Cuddle, the Luxe Cuddle, it can be kind of messy. So one of the things that we always suggest that you do when you're using any kind of Cuddle is that you measure it first on the back. So mark your markings on the back. I did it on this size of the specifications in the Bosom Buddy, which are, let me look really quick, 14 by 6.5. Okay, and I marked that with my ruler, and I just used a felt tip pen to mark it with. The trick is this little guy, which is Olfa tool, and it is the SAC-1 blade, and basically it's just a snap-off blade here. It has a nice sharp point, and what's great about it is this makes it so it's less messy. So you can get a really accurate cut on here by measuring it first. Let's see if I can start to drag this down here. And what it does is it will split the fabric and not cut all of the nap. Okay, so it works out pretty nicely. I'm going to cut it this way a little bit. You can see it's not too bad here. Most of this will stay. The problem really is where the nap goes across widthwise. So I'm going to show you how that works. Because this, to me, was a game changer in being able to use Cuddle for a lot of different projects because I can get a really accurate cut and also have it not be so messy. So what happens if you cut it with this blade is you can see that the nap sticks to the back of the fabric and I don't have a big mess. Okay, so that's the first step, is to measure it accurately, cut it. You cut it with the blade or cut it with a rotary cutter. If you cut it with a rotary cutter, just throw it in the dryer with a wet washcloth for a few minutes and it'll knock off most of that Cuddle dust, is what we call it. Okay, and then it's easy to work with. But measuring it is sometimes a little bit difficult because it's a knit and it likes to move on you. So make sure you measure it accurately. Cut it. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple of other projects. And then, let's talk about the binding here first. Okay. So the binding is, let me give you a couple of examples. You can zoom in here, Hawk. So these are a couple of the bindings that I did. This was on the print and this is on a solid. Okay. The cool thing about binding with Cuddle is that you get to do it with a raw edge. So I cut it 1 3/4 inches and I sew it with a 1/2 inch on one edge and bring it around to the other side. So this side is the one that I sewed it to. And then I bring it around here and stitch it down. Same way goes for here. Okay, here I can see the raw edge a little bit better. Okay, just a raw edge stuck right down there. Super easy. So it's 1 3/4 inches, 1/2 inch seam allowance, bring it around, and then just top stitch.
Teresa, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. Apparently, yes, there is some noise on there, and so the guy said, you're going to hear a little bit echo here, but we need to do something to turn it so the mic isn't working on this end or something. Truthfully, I don't understand it all, but hopefully they're going to take care of whatever they do. But you might hear a little echo on your end.
Okay.
Is that it? You can keep going.
Okay. All right. There we go. Thank you. No problem.
I could also turn that volume down if I need to.
Yeah, then I couldn't hear her. Yep. So that's the way that this works. Is just 1 3/4 inches, bring it around, top stitch it down. It's a super easy way, and this is the way we bind everything. I will say, when I did this project, one of the things that I really appreciated is in Annie's patterns, all of them, you tell us to zigzag this edge and make it nice and flat, which made the binding go on super easy. So I made a really wide zigzag all the way around, and I did it twice around, and it made the binding super simple to do. Makes it really easy, and I love this. So I have used ByAnnie, a few of her different patterns, a few of your different patterns, a few times, and I really, really like them, but I have never done the Cuddle until just recently. And one of the patterns that we talked about when I was out there was the eye case pattern, or eye cases, and how it seems so, of course we would put Cuddle on the inside of that. So that's what I did. So I made one using some old fabric that I had in my stash with some Alexander Henry fabric. I stuck Cuddle on the inside. And it worked so well. I absolutely love it. And I don't know why I didn't think about this before. So if you don't want to do something that is all completely Cuddle, this is a great place to throw a little extra in, and the softness of the fabric, the thickness of the fabric, as well as the thickness of the soft and stable is awesome. So yeah, the whole thing is all flip the cuddle inside, which is great. Super nice. Okay. So sewing with this, there really isn't much that's different. One of the things that we talked about when you're trying to put this together, so you're going to put the cuddle onto the soft and stable, just like you would with the cotton. So for the cotton, you can press it with a hot iron, and it'll kind of blend with the soft and stable. It sticks to it really nicely. What we found is that if you use a basting spray with the cuddle, it works really, really well. So we use the OD 505 is the one that I recommend. And you just spray the back, or spray the soft and stable, lay the fabric out, pat it in place, and it will stay perfectly well. So I actually did the stitching all the way around just like normally, but I did stick it on first. And I know that we talked about that helped a lot to get the cuddle to stay in position as you want it to. Okay, so the other project I did is this little guy, which is the little charmer. And this one is all made with cuddle. Let me lay it out for you there. Okay, this one was super fun because we did this with a different project that I have used before. The Bosel, I think it was called Siemens. No, I'm gonna not remember. Let's see what it is. So this, you stitch across it and it shrinks up. So this is one that I did with a zigzag. I didn't particularly love the effect with the zigzag, so I changed it and I did the serpentine stitch, which is great. But this was a 5-inch square, and then it just kind of sucks it in as you
when you hit it with the steam.
When you hit it with the steam, it kind of just
shrinks up and adds that texture. That's really cool.
Exactly, it was super cool. Excuse me. So we used that in here, and I just made it basically the same way until I got to the end. I decided to only use 4 different colors. So I used these colors, and then the other thing that I changed is I made these just solid strips. And so instead of piecing these edges like in the pattern, I didn't want to piece it all, so I just used solid pieces and stitched it. One of the things about working with cuddle is that you want to use a 1/2-inch seam allowance, generally speaking. I did use a 1/4 inch, and it was totally fine, but you want to pin carefully. I didn't show you really quickly. Let me see if I can actually get this piece right here. I'm going to show you how to pin it. So this is in place with the or in play with the blanket here. When you're doing the bosom buddies or the pad, I use the clips, and it was great. Those Wonder Clips are awesome. But when you're pinning, I want to show you one little trick because this helps a lot when sewing with cuddle. We do this sort of pinning. We call it double pinning, where I pin along the edge. And I come back in here and I do a double row. Okay, and then when I sew this, I sew a 1/2-inch seam allowance. If I'm going to sew this blanket, I did it with a 1/4 inch, and I would just do it with a 1/4 inch along here with these 2 rows of pinning, and that helps a lot. So the blade,
the trick with that second row is that you as you're pinning, as you're sewing, you pull the first layer out.
Yep.
But then that second layer stays, and the flathead pins go right under your foot, right?
Exactly. So this will come right along here, and this fabric still isn't going to move.
Got it.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks, Hawk. Yep. That's exactly what it is. So otherwise, you can use the clips, and I've got some of the clips here.
And those are
these little Wonder
Clips.
Okay.
Got it. And
so
who makes all that stuff?
Oh, they're all from Clover. And the Wonder Clips work if you do any of the ByAnnie patterns. You have to have the Wonder Clips because they work so well. Okay, so the pins are really important. The 505 spray is really important. We also recommend that whenever you're working with Cuddle fabric, that you're going to use a polyester thread and a 90-14 stretch needle. So it isn't as important when you're working with some of these projects because they're not going to get pulled as much by themselves. But like the little blanket totally will get pulled. And if you use a cotton thread, it's likely to pop. With a polyester thread, it's nice and stretchy still. So works out really, really well. So adding the cuddle into the projects was super easy. And like you saw in the patterns that you did, it actually kind of just brings a whole level of softness and yumminess to them. But cotton, while it's lovely, the Cuddle actually does something a little bit extra with it, which I really appreciate. So we had a great time making these. I would definitely, we have the pattern is the free download, and we made a few others that are still in process, I think, because we have them otherwise, but you can totally do these out of the print, the solid, the Luxe Cuddle, all of these, and they're fabulous. So do we have any questions about sewing with Cuddle?
I do.
Okay.
There is a tool by Annie.
Oh, that I didn't even talk about because it's sitting over
that you
here.
use every time that you touch Cuddle.
Totally true. Okay, so this one right here, it's my favorite. It's true. And I will say that this tool came in so incredibly handy when I was working with this project, because I could use it to kind of stab the fabric and bring it through. And yes, if you've worked with ByAnnie patterns at all, you know, it works really, really well. Let me say, just trying to see it. Like I do it where I stab it in the side and I can kind of drag it through. So I love it when you're doing this, the binding, it's incredibly important to be able to do that. Yes, absolutely. All right, let's see if we have anything over there. I saw like a little comment.
Okay.
I can't
all
really.
Right. You can't see because I make a better door than a window. Is that what I heard? Got
absolutely.
it. All right.
So the important tools. Absolutely, the stiletto is hands down one of my very, very favorite tools. A blade for cutting the fabric, the Wonder Clips, polyester thread, and the needles. Those are the super important things. I always use a walking foot, and that helps a lot, especially with all of those layers when you're working with a couple of layers of Cuddle and the layers of the soft and stable. With the Bosom Buddy, you have 2 layers of the soft and stable, 2 layers of Cuddle, and then any of the binding strips. So you have a lot. So working with this guy is super duper important. Can you see what the comment is down there at the bottom? I can see it there.
Nope, it says it's about our audio.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So let's see if we have any other questions that are out there. Not sure.
Okay, Teresa, there's been a lot going on here in the background, and Trevor just came in. He's on the phone with Ellen, and apparently the sound has not been good, and so people haven't heard. So Ellen suggests, and Trevor agrees, that you guys unplug and replug in your mic and start over.
Oh, wow. No. That bad. Okay. I don't know that is going to change anything. All right, here we go. I'm going to shut this down.
She unplugged and replugged in. Hawk said he's not sure that's going to solve it. This worked so well when we tested it yesterday. I wonder what's different today.
I don't know. Try now.
Can you hear us now?
Jake said that fixed it.
We unplugged and replugged everything. So.
All right, let's. Yeah, if you would just share. I can't hear her though because I don't have my things in. All right, I'm going to turn my mic back on and try listening to you again.
I will.
So everybody on this end is saying it's much better. So that's good. So I think I can hear. I just heard a sound in the background there. Can you talk?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. And I don't hear that. So let's just quickly run back through those tips about how you cut. I don't think you have to actually show the whole thing because people did see that. But pinning and using the stiletto, all of that would be really helpful, I think.
Measure it and cut it from the back side. That's super important, okay, to make sure that your fabric stays accurate as you're cutting it. All right, so I'm going to bring the camera back over so we can see us a little bit better. All right, super duper important. The other things that are really important are that you want to make sure that you're using a polyester thread and the 9014 stretch needle. You're going to want to make sure that you have your ByAnnie stiletto to keep everything in place. It really is my favorite. Okay, when keeping the fabric in position instead of basting it or just holding it and stretching it in place, you want to make sure that you use a basting spray. It's super duper important and will work really well. What I like to do is to put it in position, pull the fabric back, spray the back of it, lay it out, and pat it in position. And that will help to keep things where you want them to be and make it much easier to sew. Okay, others was the pins, and they're the long flower head pins. I recommend these the most. Okay, you saw how I pinned it. All right, and then using the Wonder Clips, which I have a whole bunch of. All right, and the Wonder Clips work great. The other ones that I really like that we didn't talk about are the jumbo ones. Let's see if they are open. These, I love these. We've talked about them on Sew Together Tuesday a few times. They're much larger.
And how would you use those?
I really like it. So I would use them when I'm doing the binding, when I'm sewing the binding on. Okay, and that's, again, it's a 1 3/4 inch strip that's sewn down along this side, brought around. And then when I'm sewing this, I can keep these here and do this serpentine stitch. All right. So that's the important part there. Those are the tools that I like the best. Like I said, the binding is super easy. If you're interested in learning how to do the binding the way that we teach it, there are videos for it. If you go to Shannon Fabrics YouTube page, there are some on how to do cuddle binding, which is 1 3/4 inch strip, sew to the back, flip to the front. Super easy. And definitely use the stiletto when you get to that point. It'll make it a lot easier. So those are the basic tips. Does that help?
That you also told me is use the stiletto to run along the edge to kind of fluff up any of the fibers that are stuck under there. And that was such a good tip.
Absolutely. Oops.
I don't know what that was.
Okay, it works. Yeah, it works really well to fluff that all up. It looks beautiful.
And one thing that I did different, I did this. This was the first bosom buddy that I made using the Cuddle, and I did cut the 1 3/4 inch. But like we had said, I'm just not used to sewing a 1/2 inch seam. It felt so wrong to me and so hard. So I thought, I'm going to see what happens if I do just my regular 1/4 inch seam. So on these two, I cut the Cuddle at 1 1/4 inches wide, sewed it on the back, brought it around to the front, and then did the serpentine stitch. And I thought that worked really well too. So I did that on both of those. On this little bib that I did, I used Cuddle front and back. I love how it makes a little reversible bib. And I loved this one that has the embossing in it. So it's got some arrows embossed in it. And I sewed the binding. I considered this the back and brought it around to the front and stitched down. And then when I did the binding around the neck, I just extended it so that once I had it bound, I could just fold that in thirds and stitch along the edge. And that made a really soft tie for the bib as well.
Did you use a raw edge for that as well?
I did. Well, I did it raw edge when I sewed it here, but then one of the edges is folded in here. But yes, along here, that's still a raw edge. And I just did a serpentine on there to stitch it together. On this little bib, I didn't do any soft and stable in it because I wanted to see, if I wanted a really soft one. But I did the textured one that has all the lines in it. And I did that on the back. And I loved how it kind of stuck out around the edges and created a little kind of border all the way around. And then just for fun, I thought, well, I'm going to see what it looks like to make my binding with that. And, I'm not sure how this would work. It might be a little overwhelming to a baby, but I thought it's so darn cute how just with that raw edge, it makes, just a cute little bib for a little one. So, we had a whole lot of fun playing with that. And being able to use it for the binding was just fabulous. This was one where we, our everyday, every way pattern includes instructions to make a changing pad that you can put inside. And we'd always wanted to try one made with Cuddle. So after, I tried those, I was feeling pretty invincible. So I did Cuddle on both sides. I used the really texturized one for the outside and then the white on the inside. And, some little baby is just going to love laying that on that to get their diaper changed. And then we did one, too, for our changing station. On this, we used cotton on the back, but the Cuddle on the front. And again, that's just going to be so incredibly soft for a little baby to lay on and get their diaper changed. So someone wrote me the other day and said that they'd made one of these, and I don't know if they'd used Cuddle on it, but their grandchild goes and gets the changing station and opens it up and lays down because they can't wait to lay down and get their diapers changed, which was never my experience when trying to change babies' diapers. I was always fighting them. So I figure, man, if that would help, everybody's getting Cuddle from here on out.
No kidding. I was going to say, because the changing table or the changing pad reminded me, because you would need it to be washable, of course. And Cuddle is completely machine washable and dryable. And I know we talked about it with the bosom buddies that you did. You threw them through the wash and the dryer, and they turn out fine. So the key is a cool wash and cool dry, basically. And then the fabric will last beautifully.
I have to admit that when you told me that and that I could do raw edges, it's like, I'm not going on and telling people they can do that unless I can prove that that's true to myself, even if Teresa says it will work. So every one of these went through the washer and dryer. And yeah, they just were ideal. The other thing that we talked about while we were getting ready for today is on this little Charmers. So I love how you did it with all minky or Cuddle on the front and on the back too. On here, we made this using cotton on the front, and then we did the Cuddle embossed one on the back. And I have, this has been a model, so I haven't had to wash this. But you said even repeatedly times going through the laundry, these embossed dots are still going to be there. And even in instances where people ironed it, maybe to put an interfacing on, that after it goes through the wash, those dots come back. So that was a really fascinating tip to learn too. And I don't know if people heard it really well at the beginning. So would you also talk about the Cuddle dust and the best way to get rid of that when you're sewing?
Absolutely. So getting rid of the Cuddle dust is super important, and because it can be a frustrating part of the fabric. And what we found is that if you take the fabric after you cut it, you're just going to throw it into the dryer with a damp washcloth for just a few minutes, let it run through the dryer, and then you just clean out the lint trap, because that's where all the Cuddle dust will be, is in that lint trap. I just did this yesterday with some kits that we're cutting out, and I think I cleaned out the lint trap 3 or 4 times. I just let it run for a minute, and then I clean out the lint trap and put it on again, and just let it tumble around, and it will knock off all of that Cuddle dust. So then when you start sewing, it's what we call clean, and it's not going to have any of that Cuddle dust falling off anymore. And that's really important because it keeps your machine without getting Cuddle dust in it, and it keeps the Cuddle dust off of everything else. So get rid of that before you start sewing with it. It's super duper easy and makes it just a lot easier to work with.
I thought that was one of the best tips, because that was always my biggest hang up with working with that, was the mess that I had everywhere. And like, we made some kits for today, and I ran all of those through, and yeah, I just didn't have any mess at all. So we do have a few questions that people have posted now that Trevor's not worrying about the sound and he can look at them. And this is a good question, and something I don't think we remembered to mention, but a really good tip is, when you do the binding, is it cut on the bias?
Oh, right. It's cut with the fabric. So Cuddle is stretchy from on the width and not on the length. So if you cut it with the fabric, it will be stretchy as if you had cut it on the bias, like with cotton, you would cut it on the bias.
That was such a great tip. And I mean, I know I would have automatically cut on the bias just because that's what I always do. So I was really pleasantly surprised by that as well. And what a great way to save, a lot of effort. When you join those strips, do you join them on a diagonal seam, or do you just do a straight up and down seam?
No, I join them on the diagonal, just like I would if it were quilting cotton.
Just so you do, because you would really have a lot of bulk built up otherwise. Exactly. Yeah, so I was going to look. I don't even see, I think I joined it right here, but yeah, it's really invisible. But being able to do that diagonal seam works really good. Okay, the next question was, do you have a recommended stitch length for Cuddle?
Yes, so we always recommend that you lengthen the stitch a little bit. So generally the default is 2.5 on your sewing machine, but we recommend that you up it to a 3 or a 3.5 when you're working with Cuddle, just because doesn't feed through the machine quite as easily. So if you lengthen that stitch, it'll actually stitch more at a correct length. So yeah, up that stitch length a little bit, it'll be easier to sew.
So for every bit of sewing that you do, even if you're doing like on little charmers, when you did that piecing, even that you did on that big of a stitch length?
I did a 3. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
I always up it when I'm doing stuffed animals, and then stuffed animals I leave at 2.5 for stuffed animals because that seam is going to get a little bit more stress than other seams would. So I kind of depends on what I'm doing. So top stitching, I will make it even bigger, just because the top stitching is quick. I just want it to be quick and easy, and it's not going to get any stress. So it kind of depends on the seam that I'm doing, but generally we recommend upping it to a 3 and starting there.
That's really a great tip. So here's another question about the binding. So it says, so the raw edge is not finished before turning it and sewing it down on the binding. Correct. Do you happen to have a little piece of fabric that you can kind of show them what we mean when how we attach it?
Yes.
Like a 2-inch strip?
I have a little strip right here. That's what I did earlier. Okay. So
here we go. Camera guy, coming in.
Okay, we'll show you because this is one that I started and then I trimmed it wrong, so I stopped. Okay, so this is the piece. It's was cut 1 3/4 inches, sewed it along here about 1/2 inch. I'm going to take that, bring it over here, bring it around to the other side, get it to match. This is when that stiletto comes in super handy. And I'm just going to hold it here, and I'm going to hold it here as I sew, and I'm just going to keep bringing this over and stabbing it down. So basically this raw edge will come right along this. What you end up with is, let me see if that's my raw edge. Yep, this is the raw edge, just like that I did before.
And so when you do that serpentine stitch, is it sometimes off the binding and sometimes inside the binding? It just goes back and forth?
It comes right off the binding. So there's the other side, and then it comes down. It comes just
I cannot see that.
Oops, there we go.
I can see it now.
So there we go. So it comes just right off right here. Okay.
Great. And then you just use and then you do your stiletto to kind of fluff up those threads and hide that stitching.
Yep. Yeah, you can totally come in here and do that.
Yeah, that part's like magic to me. So hopefully that really is. And someone asked, would a straight zigzag work rather than a serpentine?
Absolutely. A zigzag will totally work. And that's usually what I use if I'm using a luxe cuddle for the binding. When I'm using a flat cuddle or the print, like a solid, then I will use a serpentine because I like the way that it looks better. But a zigzag will totally work. Yeah.
Okay. So Teresa, this next question is kind of for you and me both. We have a pattern that's called faux chenille scarf, where you take several layers of like a woven fabric and stitch them together and then cut between the channels and wash it and fluff it up. Would that work with cuddle?
It won't work the way that it would with cotton because it won't start to fray. Okay. So the same thing gets questioned about, like about rag quilts. It's that same idea because you want it to start fraying and kind of working together. But because it's a knit, it won't work the same way. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. But I mean, you could just make a scarf out of, one of these with all the texture on it and save all that other effort. But yeah, that would make a fabulous scarf. Oh my goodness, my voice is.
You can fringe the edge of that scarf too. I've seen you fringe it.
We've done that before. Yes, you can.
And when you do that fringing, then it kind of twists up, right?
Yes, and especially if you pull them, if you stretch them, they'll twist more. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Can you take just a couple minutes and give us a little trunk show of some of those cute animals that you have on the shelf behind?
Oh, sure. So we've got a ton of them. So this is a cute little design from Baby Moon Designs. Little bunny here with some little sparkle cuddle, just like you had for yours, which is super duper cute. These are lambkins, which are a project from Funky Friends Factory. I love my little stuffed animals. I will say I make a lot of them. This one is the Larry Lion. You see it? Do you want me to bring it out?
Might be better.
Larry's pretty cute. There you go. Okay, Larry's pretty cute. He's also a Funky Friends factory pattern. I love his little tail. And I love the way that Cuddle works so that you can have all of these different types of fabrics that'll do different things. So like this is the llama fabric, and it kind of makes the perfect mane.
Yeah, it's so perfect for that. I want to see that little koala over there.
Okay, can we bring the koala out?
Bring him up here into the light a little bit.
Yeah. So here's his little tag on his ear. But this is a cute little koala. This was made by one of our brand ambassadors, Jackie, and it is from Rustic Horseshoe. So the Cuddle is just so perfect for little stuffies.
I love how she did the little Australian tag on the bottom there. That's awesome. Does she live in Australia?
No, they were doing something where if you bought the patch, they were giving money to some sort of charity thing. I can't remember the exact details, but that's what it was related to. And then one more, I'll give you my favorite little.
Speaking of llamas, one of my favorites.
If we can get the picture to not blow out too bad. So this is our llama fabric in the rose water, and the little llama from Funky Friends Factory.
Oh, that is so precious. So you use this more smooth one for like the snout and the feet and stuff, and then use that really plush one for the ears and the body.
Exactly.
So much fun.
Yeah, and I love being able to play with the textures with that because we have so many different kinds of Luxe Cuddle. The Smooth Cuddle does one thing, and the Luxe Cuddle has all these variations that you can really play with to make the perfect project.
Right.
Can you show me the pumpkin?
Oh yeah, we'll show you one more. So this is the little pumpkin.
Oh, that's fun.
That's
a fabulous one. So that's a Cuddle that's got Halloween decor kind of on it?
Yeah, it's got a Halloween print on it. It's got a bunch of Halloween words and spiders.
See, I can picture a little kid just loving that because they could lay down and use it for a pillow and sleep with it and the whole thing. That's really cute. Yeah. Well, hey, you guys, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have to say that the binding tip, the pinning tips, the
spray.
My mind is blank. The basting spray, that's what I was working for. All of those were so very helpful and so out of my wheelbox. So it was really helpful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share that with all of us. And for a reminder, I'm not sure how the sound was when we talked at the beginning, but you've got lots and lots of great videos. There's one that you have that's called 10 Tips for Sewing with Cuddle, and everything that you talked about today is included in there. And that one was really helpful, to make me just feel a little bit more comfortable going ahead. So thank you so much. And I'm really glad that we caught you guys before you head out on the road again. I know that you're leaving next week for Houston. You're also getting ready for another long road trip. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what's coming up.
So basically in January, we will hit the road again. We did a trip late summer. And in January, we're going to hit the road again, and we're going to hit a whole bunch of quilt shops. So basically, Sew Together Tuesday is in a different quilt shop every week, and we're going to travel across the country in our RV that you got to see, and we'll teach different tutorials every week. So every Tuesday, we do these tutorials, and we'll do them live from 22 different quilt shops next spring and summer. So I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. And I understand that you're going to be doing a behind-the-scenes look at Quilt Festival and filming Sew Together Tuesday from there as well. So since I've got to miss it this year, I'm going to definitely be sure and catch that just to give me that little bit of feeling of being in Houston. I can't say I'm missing the work, but I will definitely miss seeing everybody there. So we're going to wish you lots of smooth roads, very little traffic, big parking spaces, and hope you just have a great trip and hope you take care. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Before I close, I wanted to talk just a little bit about International Quilt Festival that's going to be in Houston. because a number of you have asked us whether we are going to be at the show, which I kind of spilled the beans. No, we're not. Unfortunately, we've decided that we aren't going to do any trade shows for the foreseeable future. This is going to be our first time in 15 years to miss the shows in Houston. So, it's going to be really hard not to be there with all of you. But I'm happy to say that ByAnnie will be represented somewhat at the show. Our friend Cindy Serena, who her company is Custom Creations, is going to have a small ByAnnie trunk show in her booth. She'll have it on display there. Teresa, I think, will be spending a lot of time in that booth because Cindy also sells a lot of Cuddle Fabrics. And so she's going to have a selection of our patterns, soft and stable, zippers, mesh, fold-over elastic, stilettos, and more. And Cindy's booth is number 108, so it's in the very first aisle of the show. If you're going to festival and want to see some ByAnnie items, we suggest that you head there right away, and please tell them that Annie sent you. Also, before we close, we want to remind everyone about our SewPINK Blog Hop that's going on throughout the month of October. We have had a really busy week on the blog, and we just wanted to give you a little bit about what each person has posted since we talked to you last. So on Friday, which was October 15th, the amazing Janelle of Emmaline Bags in Canada shared a really awesome little key fob wallet that she made using a really fun pink cork. And she had a really lot of good tips for working with cork, and also how to use RFID fabric to add to the pockets. Excuse me, if you're not familiar with RFID fabric, it's something that you put in so that people can't read your credit cards through the pockets. And she also talked about how to paint the edges of cork to give it a really professional finish. So be sure to check out her post and also enter her giveaways that she's doing until the end of October. And again, all of these blogs you can see at their blog, but you can find links just by going to ByAnnie.com/SewPINK. So you'll find all of those there. Also on Friday last week, Christy of Love You Sew in Ohio shared her really handy Christine sling. She made it with a really lovely pink fabric that featured cranes, and she accented with black zippers and straps, which I thought made just a really wonderful combination. The crane fabric symbolizes longevity and peace, which is everyone who is struggling with cancer is searching for. And Christy made this bag for a college friend who was a young mother of 4 who is facing breast cancer. So we really hope it will bring her some peace and know that it will brighten her day. And Trevor's asking me if I want him to finish reading that. So yes, Trevor, will you come in here and take over? Because I'm not sure people can even understand what I'm saying. I think Christy has a giveaway on her blog. Oh, no, she designed that Christine sling so that you can wear it over the shoulder, crossbody, or as a fanny pack, which I thought was really awesome. So be sure to check it out. So Trevor's going to have to come in and stand on his knees to show on here.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm at here.
Right there at the top.
Okay, yeah, so I'm not as good as Annie is at reading this, but my voice is coming back a little bit faster than Annie's was. So on Saturday, October 16th, Cheryl of Meadow Mist Designs in South Carolina, she showcased her beautiful new quilt pattern for Reedy River Falls. It's a celebration of pink fabrics and half-square triangles and a great scrappy quilt. Cheryl even shared her quilting plan for the quilt, saying that she started with diagonal lines to reinforce the diamond shapes and then free motion quilted between the straight lines. That added great texture to the quilt, and I love how the back looks like a whole cloth quilt. Cheryl offered the quilt pattern free through yesterday, so those who have been hopping along on the blog hop get a special reward. On Monday the 18th, Jess at OklaRoots shared a really cute Project Bags 2.0 that she made, including a step-by-step tutorial for the project. Jess said, "This is a fun, scrappy project that has a little bit of everything. Some quilting, some vinyl, some binding, It's a smorgasbord of sewing fun. Jess is also offering a giveaway which includes everything but fabric to make your own set of project bags, so be sure to check it out at OklaRoots.com. You have until the end of the month to enter the giveaway. And today, in addition to a post by the amazing Teresa Coates, we also have a post by Suzn Marth at Suzn Quilts. Suzn has a family history of breast cancer, so she gets her mammograms every 6 months. She stressed the importance of regular testing, saying, "I know that if they find something in their testing, they're probably catching it early, and it will be hopefully very easy to treat." Suzn designed a sweet little mini quilt, which is available as a free download on her blog. She suggests that makers use it as a way to remind themselves to get their annual screening. She photographed the quilt with her precious new granddaughter and said, "There are so many reasons to try and stay healthy, and our precious new grandbaby Emma is a good reason for me. I so agree. Getting regular screenings so that we can stay healthy for our loved ones is such good advice. We are so appreciative of the time and talent that each of these celebrities have shared with us, and thank them for helping us to promote breast cancer awareness with their blog posts. We can't wait to see what else this month brings." You want to do this one?
I can probably take over now. So as we've said, one of our SewPINK goals is to raise funds for breast cancer research. And as we told you last week, we set up a special SewPINK team as part of the Fat Quarter Shop's fundraiser to raise funds for the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Our goal with the Fat Quarter Shop is to raise $10,000. The SewPINK team raised about $1,000. 8,000, that'd be awesome. 1,000 since last week, so yay, you guys. But we're still quite a ways from our goal. So if you learned something new or inspired by any of the fun SewPINK events this year, we hope that you will consider making a donation to this important cause. Any amount helps, and we really appreciate your support. And the process is really simple. You just go to ByAnnie.com/SewPINK, and then click on the Donate Here button. And don't forget, to help reach the goal, ByAnnie.com will match every dollar that's raised on the SewPINK team fundraising page. So we hope you will join us in bringing hope to women and their families. Even a modest donation of $1 from everyone would make an incredible impact on our donation, and more importantly, in supporting cancer research at the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Remember, together we can make a difference, so we hope you'll join us in that. All right, to thank everyone for joining us today, we have some really fun giveaways. 6 lucky winners are going to receive a fabulous Cuddle Bosom Buddy kit. So we have put in the Bosom Buddy pattern, pre-cut pieces of soft and stable and fusible interfacing, hook and loop fastener, and a half yard of soft, comfy Cuddle fabric from Shannon Fabrics. So that's everything you need to make one Bosom Buddy, and you're going to have leftover fabric for another small cuddly project. One thing that I will mention is that when I cut these, I cut the big pieces for the body of the Bosom Buddy first, and then I just cut my 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 inch strip from what was left on the side, and that was plenty to bind it, so I didn't have to worry about joining anywhere other than at the end. So some of these kits have that really fabulous Cuddle Hope that has the ribbons and flowers, and then we did some with that awesome glitter pink, and we even did one for the guys, so this has the Navy Playbook Cuddle. So if you want to add a note to your comment to tell us which one you'd love to make, we'll try and consider that when we send the prizes out. So here's what you need to do to win, and remember, as usual, you need to do this on Facebook because it doesn't work on YouTube. So first of all, leave us a comment. We love reading your comments, and so tell us, have you ever sewn with minky fabric? Did you learn some new tips and tricks today for how to use it? Have you ever made a Bosom Buddy? And if you want to make one with Cuddle, which of these kits would you like? Or is there another project that you'd like to make using Cuddle? If you've got some ideas for ByAnnie projects made with Cuddle, We're always looking for new ideas, and we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. The next thing we ask you to do is to tag a friend. We want to spread the word about our weekly Facebook Live, so please share this with somebody new who maybe you haven't tagged before to let them know and share the word. And if you haven't tagged someone before, you just type the @ symbol followed by the name that they use on Facebook. Their picture will pop up so you can confirm you've got the right person. Click on it, enter your comment, and then click submit. All right, so we're going to pick winners from comments made by midnight to Mountain Time tonight. So you've got just a little tiny bit over 9 hours to watch and comment. And finally, don't forget to check your Facebook messages, because Trevor notifies our winners through Facebook, and he's going to ask you to send your shipping addresses so that we can get these off. And if you've got a preference for which kit, be sure and put a note of that in when you let him know. We can't guarantee that you'll get it, because we only made one of these and we've got 6 prices, but we'll do our best. So again, thank you all to everyone who joined us today. We're going to be back next week at 2 p.m. Mountain Time with another really special guest. My friend Sue O'Very Pruitt of Suki Sews will be joining us, and she's going to share all her secret tips for using a serger in bag making. We've had lots of questions about that, and I'm as excited about learning all those tips as I'm sure you are. So I'm really looking forward to visiting with her next week. So be sure to mark your calendar to join us again next Wednesday to get lots of great tips. Until then, we wish you happy stitching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.